These images show S-400 missiles arriving in Ankara. The Russian-made defense system is a source of much diplomatic tension. Turkey's fellow NATO members have expressed their concern over the purchase. But this Friday, the Turkish foreign minister confirmed the deal is going ahead, despite their reservations. Washington has threatened retaliatory moves, including economic sanctions. The Pentagon is also likely to prevent Turkey purchasing NATO's next-generation jets. The relationship between the two nations is already tense. Last year, Turkey's detention of an American pastor sparked a bitter rift. Andrew Brunson was convicted on terrorism charges and sentenced to 3 years in prison until Washington intervened. The deal with Russia is reportedly worth $2 billion and has raised concerns in the West that Turkey is drifting closer to Moscow.
Shipping in the Gulf is now on its highest possible alert. The UK moved to maritime security level 3 after its government said this ship, the BP oil tanker British Heritage, was approached by 3 Iranian vessels. London says HMS Montrose, a warship, moved in to warn the Iranians away. Iran has denied the incident took place, with Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif saying the British had made the claims to create tension. But Iran had warned the UK there would be reprisals for the seizure of an Iranian tanker by British Marines off the coast of Gibraltar last week. On Thursday, Gibraltar police arrested the tanker's captain and chief officer and have seized documents and electronic devices. The ship is accused of breaking EU sanctions by taking oil to Syria.
An earthquake erupting early this morning in Seattle with a magnitude of 4.6. ABC's Clayton Sandell has the latest now from L.A. Clayton, good morning.
Good morning, Amy. An early morning jolt. The U.S. Geological Survey reporting a 4.6 magnitude earthquake struck just before 6 Eastern in the town of Three Lakes, Washington. That is just outside Seattle. So far, there is no tsunami warning. Good news. And it appears this quake is not connected to those quakes that struck Southern California last week. But the West Coast region has been on high alert since those July 4th weekend tremors. And experts have been examining the fault lines that run through Seattle to see how far they extend and determine just how strong an earthquake they could produce. Experts say they are less active than the ones in California, but still could trigger a major quake. So officials taking this very seriously.
We are following this developing news in the Gulf at this hour. Millions of people on the coast there preparing for a hurricane that is expected to trigger life-threatening floods, perhaps worse than we've seen in 7 decades. Hurricane warnings are in effect all along the Louisiana coast. The tropical storm watches stretch all the way east to the Mississippi-Alabama border. More than 10 million people are in the danger zone.
Tropical Storm Barry is intensifying right now in the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi River is already about twice as high as it usually is this time of year. Now, Barry is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane and make landfall tomorrow, creating a storm surge of 2 to 3 feet. That means a strong possibility of epic flooding.
That video of the Coast Guard stopping a suspected drug smuggling sub. They chased it down, and when they got on board, they say they found hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cocaine. ABC's chief national correspondent Matt Gutman is in Santa Monica with more on this. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Cecilia. Those semi-submersibles are nearly impossible to spot in the Pacific. So sometimes the Coast Guard, thousands of miles offshore, has to rely on surveillance planes and intel. But to actually board those boats, as you see in this video, that requires a high-speed chase on the high seas and a good bit of courage.
With one officer screaming in Spanish for the suspected cocaine smugglers to stop their boat, another Coast Guard skiff slams in the surf.
It's gonna be hard to get on.
2 guardsmen in full tactical gear daringly hopping onto that semi-submersible, going full steam. They crab walk to the hatch, one guardsman slamming his fist down. Inside that sub's belly, 5 suspects hauling more than 17,000 pounds of cocaine, worth about $230 million.
A final farewell is all that's left for Micah's mother. She's living a parent's worst nightmare. Her daughter was gunned down in a drug raid carried out by police. Catalin Micah Ulpina was only 3 years old. Her father, an alleged narcotics dealer, is said to have used her as a human shield when police entered the family's home on a drug raid. Micah has become the youngest known victim of the Philippines' war on drugs. Police claim her father was armed and in the middle of a drug deal. Micah's mother says that wasn't so.
What they're saying is there was a buy-bust, but that's not true. In reality, we were all asleep. Buy-bust, they said, and they forced themselves into the house. Buy-bust means there was a drug transaction. I asked the chief, where's the marked money? But they couldn't show me anything.
The passenger jet rocked by sudden and severe turbulence, 36,000 feet in the air with no warning over the Pacific. The jet then plummeting, nearly 36 passengers hurt, many hitting their heads on the ceiling. The Air Canada flight made an emergency landing in Hawaii. ABC's David Curley covers aviation.
Oxygen mask dangling in the Boeing 777 right after that severe turbulence. The Air Canada jet had left Vancouver for Sydney, and halfway over the Pacific, the pilots turned on the fasten seatbelt lights.
But before people even had time to get back to their seats, the plane just dropped and everybody hit the floor or hit the roof.
The pilots diverting to Hawaii, 600 miles away. 5 doctors on board start treating the 37 injured. There were 284 people on board.
Charlie 9er will be engaged and medical personnel to stand by.
Behind the walls of the Vatican this morning, the search for answers in the disappearance of a 15-year-old girl, Emanuela Orlandi, nearly 4 decades ago. Her brother driven through the gates past waiting reporters. This an anxious day for him, he said. Inside the Holy City, a tiny cemetery where today 2 tombs were exhumed. Piece by piece, the historic crypts opened as Emanuela's brother looked on. An anonymous tip, a letter to the family in February, told them to search where an angel is looking. The graveyard fitting that description. But in the past few hours, the mystery deepening. No bodies were found, not even the remains of those who were supposed to be buried in the tombs.
Well, several brands of popular pet foods have been linked to a deadly heart disease in dogs. Hundreds of cases have emerged in the United States, prompting experts here to issue an urgent warning to pet owners.
They're very much part of the family, but how many of us know exactly what we're feeding our beloved dogs?
Right now, Australian pet owners have no assurance that the food that they're buying is a reasonable, good quality or is even safe for their pets.
And a US investigation has found a frightening link between some pet foods and a deadly disease known as dilated cardiomyopathy, which causes dogs' heart muscles to enlarge.
Effectively, it's a death sentence.
There have been more than 500 cases in the States, causing the US food regulator, the FDA, to issue a caution to 16 brands, 3 of which, Earthborn Holistic, Origin and Nutro, are sold here in Australia through My Pet Warehouse and Pet Circle.
Delhi has been gripped by space fever, and this is what everyone here is getting excited about.
2, 1. We have ignition.
On Monday, India will launch Chandrayaan 2, its second lunar mission. Its aim is to land a rover on an as yet unexplored part of the moon.
This is a few steps forward in terms of having an orbiter with advanced payloads and then a lander which would soft land on the moon, plus a rover which would move around and do detailed in-situ studies.
In 2008, India's first moon mission, Chandrayaan 1, orbited the moon and helped confirm the presence of water. But it didn't make a landing.
Well, here's what's trending. Is the government lying about alien existence? Well, thousands are planning to figure it out.
That's right. A big Facebook event has been created called Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us. And more than 300,000 people have signed up. Now, according to the page, the event is set to take place in September. It's going to be in the middle of the night. For decades, mystery has surrounded Area 51. Many people believe that the U.S. government stores secrets about aliens and UFOs there, and so they're going to get to the bottom of it.